Christophe Bourillon. I'm the CEO of the PYA. Welcome to this new series of webinar. We're always trying to do it better, and we've had a few glitches today, which shows that we are not there just yet. But what matters really is what is coming next, the information you will be getting, and the answers to the questions you will have. And our webinar is hosted by our colleague Ria Rao, journalist. And Ria, over to you.
Thank you, Christophe. Thank you so much to everybody for attending, and as well to our esteemed panelists. It is such an honor to have you here. This webinar, of course, as Christophe said, is the French rules and regulations regarding Posidonia seagrass. And we brought together those people in the industry and in France that we know everything there is to know to answer all of your questions in this regard. Frédéric isn't here. I will introduce him when he does join us. We have a Commissaire, Pirault, from the Maritime Prefecture, and Amelie Delamarre, Head of Marine Environment, as well from the Maritime Prefecture. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And both of you are going to be addressing the legal framework, basically what are the rules and regulations surrounding this. Could you just give us, let's start with Amelia, could you just give us a little bit of your background and what you bring to the table today?
So I am Amélie Delamarre Chardin. I'm working for the Maritime Prefecture in Toulon since only 2 months, but before, I was the head of the French International Register, which is a French flag registration. So I had to work a lot with great yachting. So I know quite a lot all the issue about this commercial activity, and I've been working within the maritime activity for more than 20 years. Not only on the Mediterranean Sea, but also in Cherbourg for 4 or 6 years. So I am a maritime officer from the French Maritime Administration.
Welcome, thank you. And Paul?
So I was a supply officer doing 4 years ago on a Navy ship, two different kind of Navy ship. And before I was on the military administration high school doing 2 years. And before I studied the law. And now I'm on the department environment department with Amelie.
Thank you ever so much. And last but not least, at this stage anyway, Steve Crowe from Yachting Pages. How are you, Steve? Thank you. You are going to be bringing us resources to which we can look to make sure we adhere to all laws while protecting the Posidonia. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So good afternoon, everybody. My name's Steve Crowe. I'm the CEO of Yachting Pages, or Yachting Pages Media Group. I've been working in marketing and communication within the yachting industry for the past 20 years. And we work with several charities or foundations, including the Blue Marine Foundation, Seabin Project, the Ocean Foundation, Yacht Carbon Offset, and Sailors for the Sea, and the Clear Ocean Pact, and of course, the one we're here to talk about today, the Posidonia project and the new anchoring regulations. So I've got many captain friends on the Côte d'Azur, and although I'm here in it's kind of rainy Bristol today in the UK, I often get to France and have a good bike ride with as many people as I can whenever I can. So that's me.
Well, thank you for joining us. Now, Frédéric was going to tell us what is Posidonia and why do we need to protect it. Is there somebody that, one of you that can sort of fill that in for us? Steve?
Hang on, if you give me a couple of minutes, I can find Fred's presentation, because I know he had prepared a presentation for everybody, and I have the first draft of it. So bear with me for a second. If you
know what, we can actually come back to that when Frédéric joins us, I imagine. Christophe, do you think that? Yeah.
Yeah, no,
why don't we go why don't we go direct to the legal framework then? What are the rules and regulations in regards to the areas in France? What are we looking at in terms of the law?
Well, in fact, the Maritime Prefect has set up a legal framework in order to protect, first of all, Posidonia, because from the maritime point of view, it was viewed as an emergency response since Posidonia was already protected, but all scientific observation also pointed out that Posidonia's surface was continuously being destroyed. And the main destruction was caused by anchorage. So moreover, damages to the Posidonia meadow, that is scientific observation, are exponential from a certain size of ship. So that's why we consider the 24 meters length overall for ship in order to decide whether they can moor or not. And in fact, the legal framework is composed of various decrees. And the main one, that is the one we called 123/2019, sets the general framework for anchoring and stopping vessels in the French internal and territorial waters of the Mediterranean Sea. That is, it's in fact the first framework we took. And then we decided to take local decrees for anchoring and stopping vessel up to 24 meters length overall, or 20 meters in some very restricted and specific areas along the coastline. And moreover, there is also another decree that is specific for the vessels above 45 meters length overall. And this one was taken in 2016. It was the first one. This one was the first step. And I must say that all these decrees went through a consultation process, and they are a result of a long collective involvement, including scientific data. We also took the observation from professionals such as Yachting. We received them in the Maritime Prefecture, and we took their specification, and we are trying really to work with them. And for this summer, of course, there will be an anchorage control policy, but this policy, I would say, will be wisely and mainly focused on pedagogy. In fact, we have full confidence in captain's sense of responsibility and professional behavior to avoid penalties and legal pursuits. But if necessary, we will not exclude them in case of abuses or bad faith. There are some instructions that are set up to our police and different police units. And all the decrees I mentioned and also the local decrees can be found on our websites, also in Yachting pages. And thank you for your contribution. It's a great job. And finally, even if anchorage and anchoring is prohibited in some areas, we have now a huge policy for supporting alternative anchorage. That is, we support ecological anchoring devices, also all what can be done to organize the anchorage in some areas, such as what is going on in Ramatuelle. And we are sure that these alternatives should be gradually developed along our coastline, and that would make it possible for yachts and all ships to anchor in those areas that are actually prohibited.
Thank you. One of the questions, and we will have a time for questions afterwards, but one of the questions that I had in advance was a captain was inquiring, a member of the PYA was inquiring, you know, there's a cowboy in every industry. There's always going to be cowboys in every industry, and yachting is no different. What if a captain is adhering to the laws and doing everything correctly? And we all know what charter guests are like. Once they get on, they want to be in a certain place and they're not allowed to be in that certain place. The captain is adhering to all laws and doing things correctly, and somebody comes along and isn't adhering to the laws. Is there going to be quite an active presence of the law in making sure that these things, these regulations are adhered to?
That is one of our aim for this summer, to be seen and to have a great police units on zone. We now are dealing with some very specific instructions for all the administration involving at sea. We will be very focused on that. And we know that some specific areas are highly frequent for a certain kind of vessels and yachts, and we will focus on it.
Right, and what are the ultimate fines? I mean, there's fines and there could be prison sentence, or you could lose your ability to be in French waters or the Mediterranean. What are the consequences of going against these laws and regulations?
Well, they can be fined. There are also legal penalty, and also there is one specific thing we can take for especially foreign captains. They can be banned from our territorial waters, and that I think will be the last measure and pursuit will be taken. It will be apart from the penalties. It will be an administrative penalty, but if we have some such captains, we will go through it. Banishment.
Great. What are the fines?
The fines are up to 150,000 euro. That is, well, quite. That could be quite important even for a yacht.
If I may, I think I understood from your earlier presentation that this will be, you know, for repeated offenders, individuals who really either don't understand or don't want to understand the regulation. My understanding is that for the first season, you will be, the Prefecture Maritime and the authorities will be doing a lot of pedagogy, information, and all that, rather than enforcing sanctions. You're not after sanctions, I guess. And you know, I would hope that all of the PYA members and most of the crews are, you know, professionals, and they want to do the right thing. And I think, as Frédéric will explain to us, you know, most of them are aware of Posidonia and you know, why they can't anchor there.
Yeah, that's right. We will focus on pedagogy, but if there are some abuse, there will be very highly sanctioned, because we will have to make, I would say, an example, and to make sure that this new regulation will be enforced.
Absolutely, thank you for that.
Thank you.
We've got Frédéric Villers who joined us, and maybe we can introduce Frédéric earlier.
Yes, Frédéric Villers, welcome. He is from the French Office for Biodiversity in the Mediterranean. How are you, Frédéric?
Oh, Frédéric.
I think you've been muted.
Yes,
there we go.
I'm fine. Thank you very much. I'm sorry to be late. I thought he was at 4.
That's all right. That's our mistake, and we do apologize. Let the participants know a little bit about you, please.
Well, I'm basically working for the French Biodiversity Agency, and I'm in charge of the mooring sector and basically the protection of marine habitats in the French Mediterranean Sea, and more especially the different impacts that create some degradation. And I'm trying basically to find a compromise between economical activities and environmental protection with the Maritime Prefect.
Nice. Well, thank you for joining us. The reason we have you here today is because you are the one that can tell us all about what Posidonia is, the seagrass, and why we need to protect it, why it is absolutely imperative that we protect it in the Mediterranean Sea. Can you explain that?
Yes, I can do it if you want. I prepared a really small PowerPoint just to try to explain basically why it's so important. I don't know if it's possible to share my screen, but maybe it would take 10 minutes maybe, but I guess some slides and some explanation. Figures are always easier than words sometimes to understand why it's so important to protect.
I think Ria, yeah, you can probably, I think Ria is the host and you can probably do that. Meanwhile, we're starting having some very interesting questions, which we will take indeed at the end of the presentation.
Actually, I can do it. I can share my screen directly. Everyone can see the screen?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So I will be quick because I think what's important is to have questions and try to answer everyone. Just this thing has not been only by, it's been a collective work with Prefecture Maritime and other agencies like Agence de l'eau, DIRM, and other companies. Yeah, just basically the issue of today is we are lucky in France because we are covered by this specific and endemic species, which is Posidonia habitat, and we are also lucky because we receive many yachts. The issue for us is basically we realize now that we have a lot of anchoring. Basically, we go directly into the Posidonia habitat. What is Posidonia oceanica? First, if we have to remember a few things, it's a seagrass and it's not a seaweed. It's endemic to the Mediterranean Sea, which means we only find it here, a little bit in Australia, but that's one of the reasons why it's highly important for us. As it's a plant, it needs light. And basically, in Mediterranean Sea, you can have light until 40 meters. That means between 0 and 40 meters, we can find this plant. I just put this thing in biology for you to understand. I will try to explain it really easily, but basically our plant has roots, rhizomes, and leaves. And little by little, we have new rhizomes, grow on old and dead ones. And little by little, we have something called the dead meadows, which is highly protected and also important. Why is it so important for us, basically, to protect it? First, what's really highly important for us is the role of Posidonia habitat has been demonstrated as an importance for the nursery of fishes. You basically found more than 400 plant species and 1,000 animal species inside. We basically call it the lung of the Mediterranean Sea, as it produces a huge amount of our oxygen. If you just think of carbon stocks, basically, it's 10 times higher in the dead meadows than in the forestry soils. Just to give you an idea, because climate change and CO2 emissions now is becoming famous, if we only take Corsica, thanks to our Posidonia habitats, it saves almost 15% of CO2 emissions in Corsica. If you have Posidonia habitats, it's always a way to protect beaches from erosion. And what's really interesting to see is when we actually try to give a value in terms of economy, what we have is that basically this habitat is higher in terms of economy than coral reefs. The idea is not really to compete coral reefs and Posidonia habitat, but just to give you an idea how important it is. But what is, I would say, and that's the most important point to remember, if you take Posidonia habitat, basically it's highly vulnerable for two reasons. One of them, it grows really, really slowly. It's maximum 1 meter per century. And what's even more important, if you destroy it, we cannot restore it. If I take the comparison with coral reefs grows a little bit faster. And if you destroy it, you can planted between 20 and 50% of success. It's not too much. For Posidonia habitat, it's less than 5 or 10%. That basically means for our lifetime, if we destroy it, we are sure we won't have a chance to recover. So of course, it's highly protected from different regulations, not only the French regulations, but also the European regulations and international regulations. Basically, where can you find it? It's between 0 and 40 meters. We are quite lucky in France because we actually are able to map all the different habitats quite regularly. So we basically have a free map. I will speak later on the application Donia, where you can really find exactly where is located the Posidonia habitat. In terms of yachting, I will be really quick. It's highly important for us, the leisure boating, not only yachting, but also for small boats. In terms of data, with AIS data, we are able basically to measure all the different marine traffics. It's really interesting because basically we can see we have some peaks during the high season, like for the Cannes Festival or for the Monaco Yacht Show, where we can see there's a lot of yachts, basically on the French Riviera, for instance. If I just speak quickly about the impact of anchoring, well, here I have a 5 minutes video, but I will let you have a look when it's in English to understand it. What is terrible for us is basically when you anchor into the Posidonia habitat, even if it's the best and safest eco-friendly way to anchor, we still basically have some impact that are quite dramatic. I just put you here a picture of the Gulf Juan in Antibes. In red, it's basically what has been destroyed in less than 10 years. It's around 100 hectares. It's the same here in Saint-Tropez. Today, in France, the impact of anchoring has been the main impact for this habitat. Maybe for the legal consequences, I will let Amelie and Paul carry on, or maybe, and I just will explain you a few things. What are the solutions you can have? We have done quite many things in terms of solutions. The most basic solution basically is not to anchor into Posidonia habitat. Of course, you have some areas where you basically need to go. That's why we are working really hard now to boost the implementation, the settlement of eco-mooring projects. Like we should have one soon in Saint-Tropez or in Bonifacio. But the thing is, this thing takes time and it's quite complex to set up this type of projects. So far, what we can give you in terms of tips, I would say, so of course, if you can try to anchor into sandy areas, how do you find it? Or you basically use your sonar, or you can see it by just by eye, I would say. But if you have any doubt, just go further 30 meters or 40 meters. At this depth, we are sure we don't have Posidonia habitat. And if possible, when you only anchor for a few hours, just try not to put too much strain, as the impact is at the same time the anchor, but also the chain when it stays for overnight. And most important thing is now we really have developed, our colleagues from Andromède, Oceanology, and Agence de l'eau have developed free applications for all captains, where basically you will be able to have the new regulations inside. You will have the different localization of the different habitats. Here, for instance, you have Posidonia habitat. In gray, you have Posidonia habitat, which is dead. And here in yellow, it's sand. What's important for us is try to go where it's only yellow. It's free app and it's really easy to use. It's in English. And normally the new regulations will be updated as well on this app. And just maybe to finish, where can you find information? Okay, with brokers, management companies, harbors, mariners. For any source, for the publications of new decrees, I would say go to the website of the Maritime Prefect, which is officially in charge of this thing. if you want the updated nautical charts, normally the SHOM should also update the maps. And to help you, because we know this thing is quite recent, we are going to create a website called Posidonia Network, where we'll try to add any relevant information. And most important thing for you to remember, if you have any questions during the summer, here is a mailing list, mailing address where you should contact directly the Maritime Prefect. And just to finish where to find information, but I will let my friend Steve to explain you more this thing. We created a bookmark which has been delivered for now 3 years at all the different yachts. It's inside the book, the yachting page, and you will find all really small bookmark when you have all the different information I gave it to you. Also on the website, you will have information. And just maybe to finish on one thing, it's the Posidonia issue is not only a French issue. France has been, I would say, in advance in terms of regulations and trying to do things, but we have Posidonia habitats everywhere now in the Mediterranean Sea. So we have been created an international network to aim to protect it and also to work with different countries. Really, we aim to gather not only scientists or ecologists, but we really want to have socio-professionals, MPA authorities. The idea is to be together to try to basically work on this issue that so far is not really well known. And please, if anyone wants to join the network, it's free. So if you want to bring your expertise or anything, please, you're welcome. I know that PYA, they already want to be part of it. I still have to send you something, by the way. And yeah, that's all. I hope I was not too long. I'm here available for any question you can have.
That was absolutely amazing, Frédéric. Thank you so much. You answered all my questions, although I'm not a captain. So that was phenomenal. This is available? We can get this on the website?
Yes, we will have on the website basically all the different relevant informations. And that's why it's also nice to have a feedback from you, because there may be some information we don't think it's useful, but maybe you need it. So please don't hesitate to tell us what's needed, and we will try to support the best we can.
Well, we'll make sure to provide all of that information. Christophe, you had something you wanted to add.
Yes, thank you, Ria. For all the participants who are joining us, my name is Christophe Bourillon. I'm the CEO of the PYA. We're fortunate to have Frédéric Villers from the French Office of the Biodiversity, Steve Crowe from Yachting Pages, who's been doing a lot of work on the Posidonia regulation, and we are especially grateful to Monsieur Paul Pirault and Madame Delamarre from the Prefecture Maritime, who agreed to join us. Unfortunately, Madame Delamarre has just been called by the Préfet for an important meeting. So Monsieur Pirault from the Prefecture Maritime will carry all the weight of the authorities on his shoulders. And in fact, we have agreed that to make sure that we get the right information to the community, Monsieur Pirault will express himself in French, and I will translate. Je viens de dire, Monsieur Pirault, que pour des raisons de compréhension, vous alliez vous exprimer en français, et je traduirai pour vous. And in fact, maybe we could, we've had a number of good questions coming in, and maybe I would like to take one addressed to you, Monsieur Pirault. Somebody said that the regulation is aimed at larger vessels, 20 to 24 meters, but surely these yachts have professional captains who understand the anchoring restrictions. This seems a little unfair for the industry, and in fact, this regulation might not be aimed at the correct sector of yachting. Pour être clair, une des questions nous dit que cette régulation est pour les plus grands yachts, les 20-24 mètres, qui ont tous des équipages professionnels. Peut-être que ce ne sont pas ces gens-là qui finalement iront peut-être se mettre à l'ancre dans les Posidonies, et notre capitaine se demande si cette régulation n'est pas destinée au mauvais secteur de l'industrie. Monsieur Pirault ou Frédéric?
Vas-y, peut-être Frédéric dans un premier temps, puis je compléterai.
Thank you, Monsieur Pirault. Frédéric?
Okay, I put my microphone on. Yes, thank you for your question. There are two things we can say about this thing is, first, in terms of impact, because it also has been something in France, we have a lot of discussions, like there are many more small boats than yachts. If you take, so you could have common questions like, why do we take care of big yachts and not small boats? Just for the impact. If you anchor an anchor for 15 meters boat, the impact is basically, there's still an impact, but it's a lot less because you don't destroy basically what's under the leaves, which is basically the woods and what we call the dead mats. Once with the weight of the anchor and of the chain, basically the impact are really higher than you can have with a small boat. That's the first thing. And also the weather has been, I mean, this thing has been worked in, I would say, we had like 3 years of consultation meetings territorially with many actors. So it also was not something which just came suddenly. It's something where we spent time to really first analyze our data to be sure we were sure about what we were saying. And we went underwater to try to make some video as well. But saying that, the impact of small boats, it's still something we have to work on it, and it's our next step. We also need also to be able in the future to regulate more issue with leisure boating under 20 meters, where you're right, we don't really have professional captains, it's more tourists who basically rent a boat once a year or a week every year, so we don't really know how to encourage. And we also realize that there's also an impact with them. It's not the same intensity of impact, but there's still something where we have to do, and basically in our plans as well in the next years to be able to change as well this behavior of captains. When I would say no professional captains, we still have to raise awareness with them, and that they can increase their practice, and then we can offer them solutions like a common. I don't know if it answered, but Paul, maybe you want.
Ouais, je rajoute, peut-être que je dirais 2 choses. La première, c'est sur des histoires de comment, de preuves de détérioration de l'herbier. Je pense qu'on l'a peut-être un peu évoqué, mais disons que pour les gros bateaux, à travers la IS, on a la certitude que l'herbier est bien détérioré par les mouillages. On s'en doute très franchement pour les plus petits, mais on n'a pas la capacité à le prouver juridiquement avec aussi facilement qu'on peut le faire avec la IS. C'est le premier point. Le deuxième point, je dirais aussi que derrière, et on le sait qu'avec les capitaines professionnels, les gens sont responsables et ont déjà commencé à changer, mais derrière l'enjeu, c'est aussi changer les mentalités de mouillage de l'ensemble d'une population. Et à commencer par les gros bateaux, eh bien, petit à petit, on va avoir l'ensemble de la population et même les plus petits bateaux, etc., qui vont se mettre à faire attention à la Posidonie, à l'environnement d'une façon générale. Voilà, c'est peut-être ces 2 points-là que je...
Thank you. Merci, Commissaire Pirault. Thank you, Commissaire Pirault. This was very interesting. In fact, it is true that, the professional yachts are staffed by professional captains, and, with the AIS and the various technological means, we can know, where, and large yachts know where they are. But the aim of the whole regulation is to, in fact, change anchoring mentalities, and the large professional yachts and crew will actually be taking with them the whole sector, and smaller yachts and other individuals who may not have the same professional attitude to the regulation. And in fact, Ria, I don't want to step on your shoes, but in fact, Steve, maybe we should give the floor to Steve, who, thanks to Steve, we at the PYA worked a lot with Steve Crowe, and I think Steve has been following this regulation for quite some time. And Steve, I think, is aware of how professional and aware of the Posidonia issue professional crews are. And Steve, I seem to remember that you did a little survey of captains. So maybe you can tell us about the overall attitude of the professional yachting industry with regards to the awareness of the regulation.
Sure. So in January of this year, I did a small survey of captains and well, there's a load of captains and a broker as well. And I asked a series of questions, and some of these questions were agreed with Fred from the agence as well. And really, what we wanted to do was find out what the understanding was and what the captains needed, basically, to be able to stay within the law whilst protecting the Posidonia at the same time. And every single one of the captains I spoke to, and even the broker, were basically unanimous in the fact that they wanted to do the right thing. They wanted to do the right thing for the Posidonia and also for the industry as well. But there were certain what's the word? Certain worries, which is normal, which is why we've been working very hard to help with the communication of this. Hence why we're here today, really. But every captain I spoke to wants to do the right thing. These guys are professionals. Their living and their tickets and their licenses depend on it.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, Steve. And in fact, most of what our audience wants to know is where are they going to get the information and when are they going to get the information? And Monsieur Pirault, maybe this is a question for you. I will say it in English and then in French. When we met with the Prefecture Maritime, Monsieur Delamarre, Commissaire Pirault and their colleagues really made it clear to us that yes, there is the regulation. Yes, the regulation will be enforced, but Mr. Pirault and his colleagues are very well aware of the importance to get the right information to the community. And I know that Monsieur Pirault were telling us that they would try to get the official charts, CHOM, updated maybe as a matter of priority, and they were themselves trying to do their own lobbying. So, je vais la traduire très rapidement. Monsieur Pirault, vous nous aviez dit lorsque nous nous étions rencontrés que bien sûr il y avait la réglementation et vous avez fait respecter la réglementation, mais vous étiez tous à la préfecture maritime très au fait du fait qu'il faut que l'information soit communiquée et transmise le mieux possible. Steve Crowe and Yachting Pages vont faire la petite mark page, mais vous nous aviez dit que vous alliez essayer de faire en sorte que les CHOM allaient être mises à jour. Pouvez-vous nous en dire plus peut-être ?
En effet, hein, je pense que l'une des priorités, c'est de faire aboutir cette information, avoir la bonne information, que l'information dans les passerelles, les cartes marines, au moins les cartes du chaume. Et comme on l'avait évoqué, à l'heure actuelle, il y a une problématique un peu autour de ça, parce que les cartes du chaume mettent un peu de temps à être mises à jour. Le préfet maritime lui-même a envoyé une lettre au directeur du chaume pour faire avancer ce dossier, pour que ces cartes soient traitées prioritairement. Donc le courrier est parti en février, un petit peu après notre entrevue. Et donc pour l'instant, je n'avais pas eu de retour officiel, mais de façon officieuse, le directeur du chaume a donné des consignes en interne pour que ces cartes soient traitées de façon prioritaire.
Thank you. Merci, Commissaire Pirault. Indeed, as was said to us by the Prefecture Maritime when we met, they would try to get the maps updated as a matter of priority. And Commissaire Pirault just told us that the Prefet Maritime wrote a letter to the Director of Chaume asking strongly that this update be done as a matter of priority. Our understanding is that they have not yet been updated. That is why I think other means of getting the information, such as the addendum that Yachting Pages is doing, will be useful. Thank you very much for that. We had other questions, and one question that has actually come up quite regularly is the one about alternative mooring systems, buoys, les coffres, and all these things. Monsieur Pirault or Frédéric, are you aware of any new developments on the alternative mooring systems?
Frédéric, peut-être.
Depending on you mean if the question is when we will have equipment to be able to offer a solution for captains, hopefully this year we should have some buoys in Bonifacio in Corsica, next year in Saint-Tropez, but the project is still under process, so I don't have the last updates of how is the project. But basically, we know that it's urgent and it's highly important in some areas where you only have basically Posidonia habitat and we find it. In some areas like Golfe Juan and others, it will take some more time, but if I remember the territorial decrease, there was also a compromise where basically it has been already permitted to anchor in some areas where you already go so far. Maybe Paul, you want to complete it, but si tu veux.
Peut-être juste rajouter quelques éléments alors un peu structurels. 2 points. Le premier, donc il y a déjà un ensemble, d'équipements qui existent, qui certes ne sont peut-être pas dimensionnés pour des très grands bateaux. La majorité de ces semelles, il y en a 32 actives sur la façade Méditerranée, sont quand même dimensionnés pour des bateaux plus petits que les plus de 24 mètres. Ceci étant dit, certaines semelles peuvent accueillir des bateaux de cette taille. Ça, c'est le premier point. Donc, il y a des équipements qui existent. Second point, donc il y a des équipements il y a tout un tas de projets qui sont mis en place. La préfecture maritime soutient, encourage l'ensemble des acteurs à porter des projets. On a des procédures administratives qui sont complexes. La préfecture maritime ne les instruit pas, mais par contre soutient et cherche à intervenir s'il y a des blocages pour faire aboutir ces projets. Donc voilà, c'est une politique aussi qui est un peu lourde et qui se met en place. Et donc je pense que dans les années aussi qui viennent, on va avoir de plus en plus d'équipements dimensionnés pour les grands bateaux.
Thank you. Merci, Commissaire. 2 things. First of all, there are already some public equipment that exists. There are about 32 smelts. They encourage points, but unfortunately, most are for vessels smaller than 24 meters. But the second point, which Commissaire Pirault said, is that the Prefecture Maritime is really encouraging the development of other similar projects, including some, private ones. And, when we met at the Prefecture Maritime with Monsieur Pirault, they were telling us indeed that they were encouraging and trying to ease the administrative development of these types of projects. So all this to say that there will be way more in the years to come, such equipment for larger yachts.
Maybe just to add something, just to give you an idea, but to have a project, a canoeing project, it costs, if I speak for vessels above 24, 30 meters, it would cost a few million of euros. So it's not only an administrative complex project, but it also requires us to find economical and environmental model to be sustainable for countries who would, or harbors who would decide basically to implement this type of buoys.
Or would you like me to ask the next question, Christophe?
Yeah, please go ahead. Sorry for having hijacked your show, Ria. Sorry.
You're a Frenchman. It's hard to get a word in edgewise. There was a question. There are highlighted blue anchoring zones, which are probably priority, but can we anchor closer towards the red zone limits? Thanks. Paul, Frédéric?
Je vais la traduire en français. Nous avons une question qui dit que sur les cartes, il y a des zones d'ancrage qui sont surlignées en bleu, qui sont sans doute des zones d'ancrage en priorité, mais est-ce que l'on peut jeter l'ancre plus proche des limites de la zone rouge?
I start, Paul. I would say in terms of, well, if you're outside the wet line, you're fine, I would say. But what's important for us is we try to put the wet lines. If you anchor, if you put your anchor strictly at the wet line, we know that the chain will take 100 meters around, basically, if you have a big yacht. So with sorry, I don't have the name in English, but when the vessel will turn, basically the chain may destroy some Posidonia habitat. So basically, it's better for us if you go further, if you don't go straight to the wetline, because we may destroy Posidonia habitat, which maybe basically would mean maybe one day we'll have to go further. So we also hope for the responsibility of every captain to understand that what we try to do is to protect it, and as much as possible try to, I would say, to use the depth. I would tell you, one of the easiest thing, the best indication you can have is the depth. If you go at 30 meters in the French Riviera, you know you will be at the limit of Posidonia habitat. You go at 35, 40 meters, it's fine. In Corsica, the limit is 40 meters. So go more to 45, 50 meters. It's the easiest way and the safest way quickest way basically to tell you with Donia. Donia will tell you directly exactly where is the Posidonia habitat. Just go, Google, download it, have a quick look and then do it. I would say it's certainly one of the easiest and safest options. Maybe Paul, you want to add something?
Peut-être juste pour ajouter et d'avoir le point de vue plus pragmatique et vraiment du service de l'État. Notre idée là, même si c'est imparfait, l'idée a été de pouvoir avoir une façon simple de savoir quand est-ce qu'un bateau est en infraction et quand est-ce qu'il ne l'est pas. C'est c'est que je disais, ça peut être vécu comme étant imparfait, mais donc un bateau qui est physiquement dans la limite interdite sera en infraction, même si son ancrage, etc., et vice-versa. Malgré tout, et c'est là ce que Madame Delamarre disait tout à l'heure, les consignes qui vont être passées et qui sont en train d'être passées pour l'été aux agents, ce qu'on disait, c'est de la pédagogie dans un premier temps, de la discussion, de l'information. Et en particulier sur ces zones un petit peu qui sont de frontières entre une zone interdite et une zone autorisée, parce qu'on sait que quand il y a du vent, un bateau, ça bouge, et un bateau qui le matin était dans une zone autorisée peut se retrouver dans une zone interdite suite à un coup de vent. Et donc l'idée, c'est d'avoir beaucoup de souplesse, beaucoup de pédagogie, donc, encore une fois, vis-à-vis de ces bateaux, en particulier sur ces zones qui sont un peu complexes, qui sont ces zones frontières.
Merci, commissaire. Yes, the idea, at least with the first year of enforcement of this regulation, is for the authorities to be understanding, flexible, to inform and so much. But basically, there are zones where, the closer to the Posidonia the ship will be, the higher the risk to get an information visit from the authorities. And, it will be up to the captains to really play it safe, bearing in mind that the regulation is there, it will be enforced, and at the same time, the authorities will try to be understanding. So these are the facts that the community needs to take into account when they decide where to anchor. Steve, would you like to add something? I have the feeling I could see you wanting to raise your hand.
Yeah, okay. I didn't actually have anything to add to this particular thing, but one thing that we are doing at Yachting Pages is that I think it's apparent that there is a lot of information out there, and what we've tried to do is to provide one place where captains and the industry can go and find it, and that's within Yachting Pages and the Yachting Pages website. Would you like me to share my screen and show a couple of things, Christophe?
Please do, because you guys were the first to not to shoot, but I think you will be, and you're already a very important source of information in addition to Donia and then the official charts when they will come up. So please do, Steve.
Sure. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the new front cover of the next edition of Yachting Pages, which is going to be out in the end of this month. Well, actually April, in just a few weeks' time. And to help communicate to as many people as possible, we've put a chart, probably one of the most well-known charts on there, which is obviously of Gulf Juan and the Cap d'Antibes. So when you go into a capitanary, or hopefully when we deliver the book on board, you'll see that this is the latest one, and there's a lot of of information about the Posidonia and the anchoring regulations inside. That's the first thing to say. There's actually 4 pages about Posidonia in there, starting on page 31. There's even the QR code, which here will take you to one of the websites as well for more information. And then we've actually reproduced, with the kind permission of the Prefecture and Paul and also Shom, we've reproduced all of the current charts that relate to the current decrees or the current regulations. There's about 50 pages. They're in the book this year, so you can look in there for more information. There's also some information on our website. If you go to our homepage, just Google Yachting Pages, then go to articles. There's actually a section here on French anchoring regulations. We've created this, and there's a bit of a summary page, and it's the first article here. And within this new article, we've got a lovely picture of some Posidonia, and then we've got the details about the decrees. We've got some of the charts. There's a link. There are many links to the Prefecture's website and to the original decrees as well. So this will be updated as often as we can. You've got the summary page here as well. And then obviously there's a link to Donia, the app, which is going to be so useful for everybody. And then the videos are covered here as well. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So we're the messenger. So please don't shoot the messenger. But if there is anything that we have missed, then do let us know, and we can update within a matter of minutes this section on our website. We're also printing. There's 20,000 copies of the Yachting Pages book, which are going to be out at the end of April. Within that, as Fred mentioned earlier, there's going to be a bookmark, which will again give you the details for Donia and the website address for the Prefecture Maritime. We've printed an additional 11,000 bookmarks, which between Fred and the police and the gendarme and us, we're going to be distributing these bookmarks to about 120 capitaneries and marina offices throughout the Med, so to try and help everybody find out about the regulations and about how to not fall foul of the law. But if there's anything else we can do, then do let us know, because we'd be delighted to help.
Thank you, Steve. Frédéric, yes?
Yes, just think of something that we, Steve, with Paul, we plan to do, like in French, we call it a FAQ, where we have the common questions that captains can ask, like the ones you asked today. And the idea is maybe to have some questions, and the most frequent questions to directly answer on the website, Prefecture Maritime website, on the Mediterranean Prison Network website, and maybe on website as well. I mean, there are certainly some questions we didn't think, so please don't hesitate to ask us, and we'll try to give answers. And it's nice to have questions now before than July, when it's going to be high season, and it's better to be prepared.
Good idea.
Wonderful. Is there anything else that anybody would like to add? Any questions that anybody has that hasn't been answered? Now is the time.
Well, if I may, I'd like to say something, actually. I'm French, as you all know. Nobody's perfect. And as a Frenchman, I am used to working with French administrations. And I must admit that when we met with the Prefecture Maritime, we were the representative of the yachting industry, very pleased to see how the Prefecture Maritime is very well aware of the importance of the yachting community, of the presence of yachts in the Mediterranean. And I think, this is the way I saw it, that the Prefecture Maritime was really trying to make this extra effort to work with the industry, inside the regulation. And I know that their job is not always easy. Je venais juste de dire, Monsieur le Commissaire, que dans notre rencontre, j'ai été très heureux de voir à quel point la Préfecture Maritime et les services de l'État souhaitent vraiment travailler avec le secteur dans la mise en œuvre de cette régulation. And it's an ongoing process. Voilà. I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of us all.
Well, thank you, everyone. Frédéric, yes?
Yeah, I also have a last thing. it's nice to try to work all together, because I think it's a collective issue, I would say, and everyone is aware about this thing. I think what's lacking for us, to be honest, is that Posidonia habitat is not as famous as coral reefs. Like we miss, I would say we lack Nemo in Posidonia habitat to make it famous. And just in terms of impact, because just watch the video, it gives you a nice idea. But a yacht, there's one number I like, is because it's easy to remember. Let's say that a yacht, a 50 meters yacht, can impact up to a quarter of a football field in one anchoring night. So it's nice also to I mean, for me, one of the objectives is that everyone can realize how urgent is the situation for everyone, and that's why the Maritime Prefect also took this initiative. I mean, we couldn't wait anymore, basically, to be able to protect the Posidonia habitat, and we hope that we all can work together to try to improve the situation. And thank you for this webinar. Yeah.
Thank you. Christophe, there was a question that came in French, and of course.
Yes, no, it's perfect. Thank you very much. I think it's a very interesting question. It's a yacht that is about 24 meters, and indeed who raises the issue that, it's not very easy for a smaller boat with a 100-meter anchor to find the spots. And that's where I think it's specifically interesting, especially if the weather is not good. And this is something I wanted to ask Commissaire Pirault, and wanted to have your answer on that. What about the weather? What about safety, security? Is there anything you would like to say?
Donc sur ces aspects qui sont essentiels, hein, parce que donc de mauvais temps. Peut-être deux points encore sur cette question. Premier point, je comprends qu'il y a une taille de bateau, et c'est une réalité, qui peut avoir des problèmes à mouiller parce que la limite de la Posidonie les repousse dans des fonds qui commencent à être trop profonds pour eux. C'est pour ça qu'il y a un ensemble de zones dérogatoires à l'intérieur des zones interdites. C'est pas partout, mais il y en a certaines. Ça, c'était le premier point. Second point, pour les affaires de météo, le cross-med demeure, lorsque la météo et que la sécurité devient un enjeu, demeure le point de contact important pour autoriser des mouillages dans des endroits les plus appropriés, parce que la sécurité va prendre le dessus. Parce qu'on ne veut pas de bateau à la côte, parce qu'on ne veut pas qu'il y ait d'accidents. Et donc, dans ces situations qui sont complexes, où la météo commence à mettre la question de sécurité sur le devant, moi j'encourage les capitaines de yacht qui se retrouvent dans des situations compliquées à cause de la limitation de mouillage, etc., de 100 mètres de chaîne, de prendre contact avec le crossmed pour leur dire, voilà, nous on a cette problématique, donnez-nous un endroit où aller, et le crossmed aura l'autorité de dire, allez ici, pas de souci, on a autorisé. Voilà.
Thank you. Merci, Commissaire. Two things. First of all, the Prefecture Maritime is very well aware that, there is a size of vessels where it's not going to be easy to find depth where they can anchor. So that is also why within the forbidden zones there might be, there are some areas where anchorage may be authorized. And the second point, which to me is very extremely important, is the Prefecture Maritime does really indicates and recognize that safety is paramount. And captains who may be, in an easy, unsure situation may contact and should contact the crossmed, which will have the authority to tell the captains, you can anchor there, you can anchor here. Bearing in mind, and it's me saying that, not Commissaire Pirault, once it's all done, the vessel will probably have to justify the request to anchor in maybe a forbidden zone. But again, the Prefecture Maritime recognize that safety is their number one concern.
Is there any further questions that anybody has?
Can I ask a question? kind of carrying on from the last question, a captain friend of mine who looks after I think it's a 24, 25 meter boat, was basically saying that it's almost impossible for him to anchor in 40 meters of water because he just does not have enough chain. What would be the scenario for him?
Well, there is the issue again. I think this is a question coming back to the previous one. Steve a dit qu'effectivement, il connaît, et il y a des capitaines de bateaux de 24 mètres qui ont des longueurs de chaîne qui finalement ne leur permettront pas de trouver suffisamment de points d'ancrage. Quelles seraient leurs recommandations, sachant qu'on veut qu'ils restent en France?
Voilà, alors, donc encore une fois, donc, les orienter vers ces fameuses zones dérogatoires. Il y en a quand même, il y en a un certain nombre, c'est pas non plus... c'est pas, il n'y en a pas partout, mais il y en a un certain nombre et qui ont été étudiés, voilà, sur des plages de sable, etc., pour pouvoir accueillir ces bateaux qui sont plus petits et qui donc vont avoir des difficultés à mouiller par des fonds plus importants.
Yeah, merci, Commissaire. Yes, I mean, there are, you know, some authorized zones within the forbidden ones that have been spotted, and indeed, you know, those yachts and boats should look for them. And I would just add a little comment that's personal. We would very much like those boats to stay in French waters.
Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for attending, and thank you for all the questions. The one thing that did come out of this, and from all the questions that have been asked, and also from the emails that have been received, was that people would really like to have a buoy field, basically, in order to make sure that they don't run afoul of any laws and to enable them to be wherever they need to be in order to continue doing what they do. So I'm going to ask every one of the panelists if you could provide me, and I will do this afterwards, with every link that you have. Steve over at Yachting Pages, I have shared already your link. We will make sure to do that again, the PYA. And as well, Paul and Frédéric, any information or links that you could provide. We have been recording this. We will edit it and we will have it up for future use for people to go over, and we would like to provide those links, any possible links that we can, so that people have any questions they can ask, or they can just look for the information. Once again, I want to say thank you ever so much to Frédéric Villers from the French Office for Biodiversity in the Mediterranean. Thank you, Frédéric.
I will give you the PowerPoint. You can distribute it to every captain who is interested.
That's wonderful. That's great. Thank you so much. And we have Paul Pirault, Commissaire from the Maritime Prefecture. Thank you for your time.
Thank you too. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Bourrier, pour la traduction.
Merci pour votre présence, Monsieur Pirault. Thank you very much to you and Madame Delamarre. Thank you.
Yes, and I was going to say it as well, for those that joined late, Amelie Delamarre, Head of Marine Environment from the Maritime Prefecture as well. She joined us. She had to run. We thank her for her time. And last but not least, Steve Crowe from Yachting Pages. We thank you so much for all of the work that you have been doing on this and continue to do, and the information that you continue to bring to the yachting community.
Very welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
Right. Well, thank you, Christophe. It's been wonderful co-hosting with you today.
Hey, sorry for having hijacked your show, Ria. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. See you next time.
Take care. Once again, you've been watching the PYA webinar, French Rules and Regulations regarding Posidonia Seagrass. We will provide all links for you underneath this when it airs. We hope you join us again for the next webinar. Take care.